The first time I realized something was wrong, it wasn't because someone asked me for money. It was because no one asked how I was anymore. My name is Olivia Turner. I'm 41 years old, and for most of my life, I believed helping family was just what you did. You showed up, you gave what you could, and when things got hard, you gave a little more. At least, that's what I told myself. I worked as an accountant for a mid-sized company. Nothing flashy. Long hours, stable income, predictable. Life? I liked it that way. Numbers made sense. They followed rules. People didn't. After my divorce 8 years ago, I rebuilt everything quietly. New apartment, new routines, savings plan. I learned how to stand on my own again. My family said they were proud of me. What they really meant was that I was dependable. When my younger brother, Jake, lost his job, I helped him cover rent for just a few months. When my mom's car broke down, I paid for the repairs because she needed it to get to work. When my cousin needed help with a medical bill, I transferred the money without hesitation. It felt good to help. At first, the problem is, people get used to rescue. And once they know you'll always say yes, they stop seeing it as generosity. It becomes expectation. I didn't notice the shift right away. Requests started sounding casual. Hey, could you spot me this month? Can you just cover it for now? You're good with money anyway. Little jokes, little assumptions. I laughed them off. Because saying no felt selfish. Because every time I hesitated, someone reminded me, we're family. That phrase worked like a key, unlocking my guilt every time. My weekends slowly disappeared into errands for other people. Helping my mother sort bills, reviewing Jake's job applications, sending money here and there without keeping track. I told myself it wasn't a big deal. I was doing fine financially. But something strange started happening. I stopped buying things for myself. Small. Even replacing my old couch kept getting postponed because someone else always needed something more urgently. I didn't resent it. Not yet. Then came the birthday dinner. It was at my mom's house. Nothing fancy. Just family gathered around the table. Laughter, food, the usual chaos. I brought wine. Jake arrived late, laughing loudly, telling stories about a new business idea he was working on. Everyone listened. I smiled. Halfway through, dinner? My mom raised her glass. To Olivia? She said warmly. The one who always saves us? Everyone clapped lightly. I felt embarrassed but smiled anyway. Then Jake laughed and said, Yeah, seriously. She's like our personal bank. The table laughed. Someone added, Olivia always has it handled. Another laugh. Something inside me went still. It was a joke, but it didn't feel like one. I looked around the table. Everyone smiling, comfortable. And suddenly I realized something unsettling. They weren't joking because it was funny. They were joking because it was true. I forced a smile and took a sip of wine. The rest of the evening blurred. When I got home, I sat in the dark living room and replayed the moment over and over. Our personal bank. The words echoed. I told myself I was overthinking, but the next morning, my phone buzzed. Jake. Hey, can you send me $500 just until next week? No, hello. No, how are you? Just a number. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I sent it. Because that's what I did. Days passed, then weeks. Requests kept coming. Mom needed help with insurance payments. Jake needed investment money for his idea. An aunt needed help covering a bill. Each request felt smaller than the last, almost automatic. And every time I sent money, I felt a little emptier. One evening, after a long day at work, I stopped by the grocery store and hesitated over something simple. A nice bottle of olive oil I liked. I put it back. Too expensive, I thought. Later, that night, Jake texted me, asking for $300 more. I sent it without thinking. That's when something clicked. I was budgeting my own life around everyone else's emergencies, and no one noticed. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday. I was sitting at my kitchen table reviewing my bank statements. Numbers everywhere. Transfers, payments, expenses that weren't mine. I added everything up. The total made my stomach drop. In 1 year, I had given my family more money than I had put into my own savings. I stared at the screen, feeling something cold spread through my chest. Not anger, clarity. My phone buzzed again. "Mom, sweetheart," Jake said, "you might help him with his car payment. He's stressed." I closed my eyes. Something inside me tightened. For the first time in years, the word no floated to the surface. Quiet, terrifying, possible. I didn't say it yet, but the idea stayed with me. And once that door opened, I couldn't close it again. That night, lying in bed, I whispered something into the dark I had never admitted before. "I feel used." The room stayed silent, but the truth felt loud. I didn't know it yet, but everything was about to change. The word stayed with me. Used. I tried to push it away, but once you see something clearly, it's hard to pretend you don't. The next morning, I woke up feeling restless. My phone sat on the nightstand, quiet for once, and I almost felt relieved. Almost. Because silence usually meant the next request was coming. At work, I buried myself in spreadsheets, letting numbers calm me. Numbers didn't guilt you. They didn't call you selfish for setting limits. Around noon, my phone buzzed. "Jake? Hey, did you get Mom's message? Need help with the car ASAP?" No greeting, no question. Just expectation. I stared at the screen. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Usually, I would respond immediately. This time, I didn't. I put the phone face down and kept working. An hour later, another message. "Olivia?" Then, "Seriously, I really need this?" The urgency felt familiar. Manufactured. The kind that made me feel responsible for fixing everything. But something inside me resisted. I typed slowly. "I can't help right now." The reply came almost instantly. "What do you mean you can't?" I didn't answer. My heart pounded harder than it should have. Saying no felt wrong, like breaking an unspoken rule. But underneath, the anxiety was something unexpected. Relief. That evening, I came home to 3 missed calls from my mom. I called her back. Her voice sounded tight. "Jake says you're not helping him." I sighed. I can't keep covering everything. Silence. Then, softly, "He's struggling, Olivia." "So am I said before I could stop myself. The line went quiet. "You've always been good with money," she said finally. There it was again. The assumption. Because I managed my life well, I was expected to manage everyone else's too. "I need to think about my own finances," I said carefully. She sighed, disappointed. "I don't understand why you're being like this." Neither did I, fully. But I knew something was shifting. The weekend came with another family gathering, my aunt's anniversary dinner. I considered skipping it, but guilt pulled me there. The moment I walked in, I felt it. The subtle tension. Jake barely looked at me. My mom smiled too brightly. Dinner started normally. Conversations flowed. Laughter filled the room. Then Jake said loudly, "Guess I'll be taking the bus for a while." The table quieted. He shrugged dramatically. "Some people don't help family anymore." Heat rushed to my face. Everyone looked at me. I forced a small smile. "This isn't the place, Jake." He laughed. "Why not? Everyone should know." My aunt frowned. What's going on? Jake leaned back. Olivia suddenly decided she can't help anyone anymore. The words hung in the air. I felt my chest tighten. I didn't say that, I said calmly. He shrugged. Sure feels like it. My mother jumped in softly. Let's not argue? But the damage was done. I looked around the table. Confusion, judgment, curiosity, and something inside me hardened. For years, I had helped quietly. Now, the moment I hesitated, I was being painted as the problem. I finished dinner politely, barely tasting the food. When I got home, I sat in my car for a long time before going inside. I realized something painful. They didn't notice everything I had given. They only noticed when I stopped. The next morning, Jake showed up at my apartment unannounced. I opened the door, surprised. He walked in without waiting. Seriously, he said. You're just going to let me drown? I closed the door slowly. You're not drowning? You don't know that. I crossed my arms. I've helped you for years. He laughed bitterly. Yeah, and now you're acting like a bank closing accounts? The words hit harder than he intended. Because that's exactly how I felt. Like an account they assumed would never run dry. I'm not your backup plan. Forever, I said quietly. His expression hardened. You've changed. The accusation stung. Maybe that wasn't a bad thing. I just need boundaries, I said. He scoffed. Boundaries? Since when? Since I realized no one cared about mine, I thought. Out loud, I said nothing. He shook his head. Mom's really upset, you know? Guilt twisted in my stomach. But I held firm. I'm not saying no forever, I said. I just need space. He stared at me, disbelief turning into anger. You're selfish? The word landed heavy. For years, I had feared hearing it. Now, it didn't feel as powerful. He stormed out, slamming the door. The apartment fell silent again. I sank onto the couch, hands trembling. Not because I regretted it, because I realized how fragile my place in the family was if it depended on money. That night, the group chat exploded. Family helps each other. We're worried about you. You're acting cold. No one asked why I felt overwhelmed. Only why I wasn't giving. I muted the chat. And for the first time, I let the silence stay. Days passed. Work felt like a refuge. One afternoon, a coworker invited me out for coffee after work. Normally, I would decline, too busy helping someone. This time, I said yes. We talked about nothing important. Movies, travel, work frustrations, and I realized how light I felt when no one expected anything from me. That night, I checked my bank account. For the first time in months, the numbers looked steady. No sudden transfers. Emergency payments. Just calm. I should have felt guilty. Instead, I felt safe. But peace never lasts long when people are used to access. 3 days later, my mother called again. Her voice sounded tired. We need to talk, she said. My stomach tightened. About what? About how things are changing. The way she said it made it sound like I had done something wrong. I agreed to come over Sunday. After we hung up, I sat quietly, staring out the window. A thought settled heavily in my chest. Maybe they didn't see me as family. Maybe they saw me as a resource. And resources aren't supposed to say no. I didn't know it yet. But Sunday would be the moment everything finally broke open. Sunday arrived heavy. I almost didn't go. Twice, I picked up my keys and put them back down again. Something in my chest felt tight, like my body already knew this conversation wouldn't end well. But guilt won, like it always did. When I pulled into my mother's driveway, I noticed all the cars. More people than usual. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just a talk, it was a meeting. I walked inside and immediately felt the shift in the room. Conversations quieted. Eyes followed me. My mom hugged me quickly, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Everyone's just worried," she whispered. I nodded slowly and sat down. Jake was already there, arms crossed. My aunt and uncle sat nearby, looking uncomfortable. Even my cousin Melissa avoided eye contact. The atmosphere felt staged, controlled. Like small talk, safe topics. I barely touched my food. Halfway through the meal, my mother cleared her throat. "Olivia," she said softly, "we need to talk about everything." The room went quiet. I set my fork down. "Okay?" She folded her hands. "Your father and I are struggling a little financially. And Jake's situation has been hard too." I waited. She continued carefully. "We feel like you've pulled away." Jake scoffed quietly. I kept my voice calm. "I've just been trying to set some boundaries." The word landed badly. My aunt frowned. "Boundaries are fine," she said, "but family comes first." There it was again. The phrase that always meant my needs came last. Jake leaned forward. "Look, no one's saying you have to do everything," he said. "But you make good money. You're stable. Stable." Like that explained everything. My mother nodded. "You've always helped us. We just don't understand why you stopped." I felt heat rising in my chest. "I didn't stop helping," I said quietly. "I just stopped saying yes to everything." Silence. Heavy. Then Jake laughed softly. "It feels like you're punishing us." That hit harder than I expected. Punishing? As if not giving money was an attack. I looked around the table, everyone waiting for me to explain myself. Again, and suddenly I felt tired. Deeply, painfully tired. "I've given a lot," I said slowly. "More than any of you realize." Jake rolled his eyes. "No one forced you." The words landed like a slap. He was right. No one forced me. They just expected it. My mother's voice softened. "Sweetheart, we're just asking for support." I took a breath. "How much?" The room shifted. Jake answered quickly. "I need help covering the car and some bills until my business takes off." My father added, almost casually, "And we've been thinking, maybe you could help with the house more regularly." I blinked. "What do you mean?" My mother hesitated. "Just contributing monthly." Monthly. Not help. Responsibility. Something inside me went very still. I looked around the table again. They weren't asking. They were assuming. I felt clarity settle over me like cold water. This wasn't about one payment. This was about access. About keeping me in the role I had always played. The provider, the safety net, the ATM. I stood slowly. "I can't do that," I said quietly. The room froze. Jake frowned. "What do you mean you can't?" "I mean, I'm not taking financial responsibility for everyone anymore." Voices rose immediately. "That's not fair. We're family. You're overreacting." I felt strangely calm. For the first time, their reactions didn't pull me back. My mother's eyes filled with tears. "We just need you." The words hurt. Because they were honest. And that was the problem. They needed what I gave. Not necessarily me. "I love you," I said softly. "But I can't keep living like this." Jake shook his head, angry now. "You're acting like we're using you." I held his gaze. "Because you are." Silence crashed over the room. My father slammed his hand lightly on the table. "That's enough." But it wasn't. Something inside me had finally snapped into place. I picked up my coat. My mother's voice cracked. "Olivia, don't do this." I paused at the door. Tears burned behind my eyes. I'm not doing anything to you, I said quietly. I'm finally doing something for me. And then I walked out. The night air felt sharp and cold. I sat in my car, breathing hard, hands shaking. I expected panic. Instead, I felt relief. Deep, quiet relief. Driving home, one thought repeated in my mind. I finally said no, and everything had changed. The next morning, my phone exploded. Messages flooded in. How could you say that? Your mother cried all night. You're tearing the family apart. I stared at the screen. Not one message asked how I felt. I typed a single reply in the group chat. I need space. Please respect that. Then I muted it. The silence afterward felt strange and peaceful. That evening, I opened my banking app. For the first time in years, I made a transfer. Not to my family, to my savings account. It felt small and huge. But peace didn't last long. 2 days later, Jake posted something online. A vague message. Funny how people change when money matters more than family. Comments poured in. Supportive, sympathetic. People who didn't know the full story agreeing with him. I stared at the screen, feeling my stomach twist. He was rewriting the narrative, making me the villain. And suddenly I realized something. They weren't upset because I stopped loving them. They were upset because I stopped paying. That truth hurt more than anything else. That night, sitting alone in my quiet apartment, I whispered into the dark, I can't go back. And for the first time, I meant it. The silence after I muted the group chat felt louder than any argument. No constant notifications. No guilt-filled messages lighting up my screen. Just quiet. At first, it felt wrong. I kept reaching for my phone, out of habit, expecting another crisis to solve. But nothing came. And slowly, I realized something strange. My body was relaxing. I slept through the night for the first time in months. I woke up without that familiar pressure in my chest, the feeling that someone, somewhere, needed something from me. Life felt lighter. But peace has a way of making grief louder. One evening, while making dinner, I suddenly started crying. Not because I regretted what I did, because I missed them. I missed the idea of family, the version where helping felt like love, not obligation. I wiped my eyes and sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone. No messages, no calls. And for the first time, I realized something painful. When I stopped giving, the connection stopped too. Days turned into weeks. I focused on work. Started taking walks after dinner. Bought things I had postponed for years. A new reading chair. Fresh plants for the apartment. A weekend trip I almost canceled out of habit. Each small decision felt unfamiliar, like I was learning how to exist without being needed. One afternoon, a coworker invited me out for drinks after work. Normally, I would have said no. Someone always needed me. This time, I said yes. We laughed about work stories, talked about travel plans, normal things. And halfway through the night, I realized how easy it felt to be around people who didn't expect anything from me. That thought stayed with me. A month passed. Then one Saturday morning, my phone rang. Mom? I stared at the screen for a long moment before answering. Her voice sounded smaller. Hi, sweetheart. Hi, Mom. Silence stretched between us. I miss you, she said softly. The words hit hard. I miss you too. Another pause. We didn't mean to make you feel used, she said carefully. I closed my eyes. I don't think anyone meant to, I said honestly. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. She exhaled slowly. I think we got used to you fixing everything. Hearing her say it made my chest tighten. Not because it fixed anything, but because it was the first acknowledgement. We talked for 20 minutes, carefully. No accusations. No money talk. Just cautious honesty. Before hanging up, she asked quietly, "Are you coming back?" I took a deep breath. "I don't know," I said. Not the way things were. She didn't argue. That mattered more than she realized. After the call, I sat in silence for a long time. I felt sad, but also steady. Weeks passed. My father sent a short text one evening. "Hope you're okay." No lecture, no pressure. I replied, "I'm okay. Hope you are too." Jake never reached out. At first, that hurt. Then I understood. Some people only stay close when the benefits are there. And maybe that wasn't something I could fix. Life kept moving. My savings grew for the first time in years. I started planning things for myself instead of reacting to everyone else's emergencies. I felt calmer, stronger. One afternoon, I caught myself smiling for no reason while driving home. It startled me. I couldn't remember the last time I felt peaceful without guilt attached to it. Months later, I drove past my mother's neighborhood. I slowed down but didn't stop. And surprisingly, I didn't feel bad. Just quiet acceptance. Walking away hadn't been about abandoning them. It had been about saving myself. That night, sitting by my window, I thought about everything that had happened. For years, I believed love meant giving, until there was nothing left. But real love shouldn't feel like a transaction. It shouldn't come with expectations or quiet resentment when you say no. I still loved my family, but now I understood something I hadn't before. Love without boundaries turns into exhaustion, and exhaustion eventually turns into resentment. Choosing myself hadn't made me selfish. It had made me honest. A few weeks later, my mother invited me for coffee. Just the two of us. No pressure, no agenda. We talked about normal things, weather, work, memories. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like her daughter instead of her solution. When we said goodbye, she hugged me tightly. "You seem happier," she said. I smiled softly. "I feel lighter." Driving home, I realized something important. Walking away didn't mean closing the door forever. It meant reopening it differently. On my terms. With balance. With respect. That night, I sat in my apartment, quiet, warm, mine, and thought about the woman I used to be, the one who thought her value came from how much she could give. She wasn't weak. She was just afraid that saying no meant losing love. Now I knew better. The people who truly cared would learn to love me without access to my wallet. And if they couldn't, then maybe they never really saw me to begin with. I looked around my living room, peaceful and calm, and felt something settle inside me. Walking away hadn't broken my family. It had broken a pattern. And for the first time in years, I felt like my life belonged to me again. If this story felt familiar, if you've ever been the one everyone depended on until you finally chose yourself, subscribe and stay with us. There are more stories like this coming, and sometimes hearing them reminds us we're not alone.